Look, I was a little bit disappointed, Pete, that the focus seems to be on skills when, the thing the federal government is mainly responsible for, of course, is social security and tax. And so those are the levers that they have more influence over. Vocational education is largely a state responsibility. And I note the Prime Minister was talking about this 1.5 billion in grants that are given to states every year. And so far they are untied, which is what most economists would say is a better thing, because you want states to be responsible for the money they spend, rather than the federal government be interfering and trying to micromanage how they spend it, because we already have plenty of that. And it seems though that the Prime Minister wants to do more of that and more micromanaging from Canberra of the various tapes. And the Prime Minister also says that spending on vocational education has fallen steadily for 10 years. But of course, that is because the federal government itself has been dragging more and more people into university to do arguably very wasteful degrees that have been publicly subsidised. So I think it's very unfair of the Prime Minister to blame the states for less funding on TAFEs when it itself has been pushing more and more to go to university.
What about on IR reform? Can that be achieved?
Well, look, I think this is a much more sensible area to focus on. There's no doubt our modern awards, so-called modern awards, are far too complicated for many industries to implement, and they are certainly a handbrake on job growth. And I think that is where the federal government and the states, to the extent they still have jurisdiction over that, should be working together to simplify them. I mean, there's going to be extraordinary need to encourage hiring later this year, as we all know now. And I think this is a real opportunity to make changes in the industrial sphere that just could not have been done politically a year ago.
He's also going to talk about tax changes. Are we looking? We've talked about this for so long, whether there's going to be business tax cuts or not. I mean, is that finally going to be achieved? I mean, Labor may not go with it. It's more in favour of an investment allowance. So, what are the pros and cons?
Well, look, I think the only way the Labor Party would support in the Parliament a cut to the company tax rate is if there was some grand bargain over some other taxes that it wanted to see implemented. Otherwise, I don't know why the government would really bother actually with the company tax cut. I think, politically too, it's quite a toxic thing. Most people don't see the economic benefits that it can bring. If I were the government, I would focus much more on personal tax, because at the end of the day, that is what affects most people, the vast bulk of people, and it should bring forward, at least in my view and Peter Costello's view and John Fraser's view, it should bring forward those 2024 tax cuts to start on the 1st of July next year.
What's the issue, Adam, with company tax cuts, pulling it back to 25%, I think it is, for all businesses, not just those who earn less than 50 million?
Well, look,
overseas businesses, I think, isn't it?
Yes, look, that is the issue, of course, because ultimately, if you're an Australian company, a company tax cut doesn't really help you very much, because we have, full dividend imputation. So it's kind of a withholding tax. So the only entities that really actually pay the company tax, if you like, ultimately are foreign companies. And so when you cut it, you are giving foreign companies a tax cut. Now, of course, the argument is that you'll get more investment. I mean, I'm actually personally quite ambivalent on this. I certainly see the theoretical benefits, but I don't know if I would put so much political capital into trying to get that 30% rate down.
Do you think he should be, putting more pressure on perhaps the Queensland Premier to open up the border? And I single out the Queensland Premier because it is the tourism state. And I tell you what, there's a frightening forecast in the Cairns Post today, Adam. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but they're forecasting unemployment there to go up to about 18%, which gives you an idea of the tourism industry that could be hit.
Look, it's just an extraordinarily stupid decision. I think also politically too, the only rationale that I've heard for it is that the Queensland Premier, who of course is facing an election, is just worried that there could be an increase in cases before the election if she opens the border. I mean, that seems like an extraordinarily stupid justification, given there haven't been any cases for so many days now. And it's quite clear that, there are only 5 people in the whole country in hospital on coronavirus. I mean, it's almost laughable. 5.
Sorry to cut you off. I've got about 20 seconds left. I just want to get your thoughts on the wash-up from the Treasurer's explanation about the $60 billion that is going to be saved now rather than spent.
Well, look, I don't think it's his fault personally. Some people have called on him to resign. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, he's got almost 1,000 public servants. Of course, some of them will occasionally make an accounting error, and sometimes it will be as large as this one. And I just think we should all be grateful that it's gone our way and the government has saved $60 billion. It's basically great news. I certainly don't think this money should be spent at all. I think it should be, basically not borrowed. It was just going to be borrowed. Indeed, I still think the program at $70 billion in 6 months is still probably too generous. and there will be hundreds of thousands of people getting this payment who really shouldn't be getting it at all.
And we don't know what's around the corner.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.